Everybody, welcome to another edition of Izzy Cinematic Escape on YouTube. I'm your host, Izzy. As per usual, anyone who happened to find this channel through the YouTube search engine or other outlets, feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you happen to enjoy my work and spread the word to your friends and family. Anyone who isn't new and has been here since the beginning, thank you, and I hope you all continue to enjoy my work. Today's review is based off the 2016 Marvel Cinematic Universe ensemble film, Captain America Civil War. Starring Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Paul Bettany, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, Jeremy Renner, Scarlett Johansson, Elizabeth Olsen, William Hurt, and it is a huge film that had a high level of anticipation when it was announced that Captain America Civil War was going to become an actual film. Anyone who is overly familiar with the concept of Civil War, if I get any information wrong, feel free to correct me, and I promise you I won't get upset. It's just been a while since I read the comic book. The Civil War comic book franchise was a huge crossover event that was in 2006, and it was a talk amongst comic book fans. And I remember very vividly how it was such a huge deal that it was still a topic of discussion for months on end because of the fact that it was such a huge event. The problem with Captain America Civil War is the fact that there's this particular picture that everybody or fans and even the general audience had in their mind when it came to Civil War. And to give you a perspective of how Civil War was, the general audiences were even familiar with the storyline. And it's such a huge storyline with a monumental myriad of characters that it's very hard to translate it onto the big screen. Without the likes of Fantastic Four and the X-Men integrated within the storyline, and since Marvel didn't have access to those characters, it was very hard to bring it into a much more cohesive unit, if you will, and you didn't necessarily have the ability to have this be a huge epic film. So in that regard, that Captain America Civil War had that little bit of a disadvantage. As I mentioned, it's much more scaled down compared to what we remember in the comic book. And the comic book is, from what I remember, and I could be wrong, so again, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I want to say that originally the overall purpose for the Superhuman Registration Act was because of the fact that you had the Hulk who destroyed Las Vegas. That initially planted the seeds. In this film, you have the Sokovia Accords. Due to again, it's necessary to watch Avengers Age of Ultron in order to really get a full scale of what it is that brought about the Sokovia Accords. And it's, as I mentioned, it's scaled down. It's very hard to really replicate that type of full-scale assault as far as characters are concerned onto the big screen without everybody receiving their time to shine at that particular moment. The one thing that really increased the anticipation level was how Sony and Marvel/Disney worked out a deal to integrate Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So you get to see Spider-Man, Interactive Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow, and of course, it was also the debut of seeing Black Panther T'Challa, portrayed by the late great Chadwick Boseman, Wakanda Forever. It was so you had those two characters that were making their appearance into the Marvel Cinematic Universe for the very first time, and it really generated a massive amount of anticipation and excitement. Captain America Civil War, with my review pertaining to this film, I will always appreciate the fact that it did such a great job with the characters that were available for them at the time, and how they still managed to adapt accordingly despite not having access to the respective characters that would have made it into a full-scale, proper Civil War adaptation. Having said that, one of my biggest gripes with Marvel, and I've made this known many times in previous reviews, is how they generally play it too safe when it comes to their films and their storylines. And don't get me wrong, I don't like depressing, bittersweet endings as much as the next person. There are still some films to this very day that I will not watch because of how depressing the ending it is and how emotional and how it generally typically tends to mess with my emotions to this. So I don't necessarily find myself rushing to watch any type of film that has depressing endings. There are some that I could take, but then the ones that are just overly emotional, I can't take it. But I do understand that there are just some stories that call for a much more serious ending in order for the message to be accepted, in order for the message to be really, fully realistic. Marvel, from certain films, have always branched into the whole hunky dory, everything is all flowers and rainbows type of deal, and whereas there has to be some form of stakes and consequences at hand. Um, Captain America: Civil War is a great film. I did enjoy it. It's very unique. It's probably one of the more darker Marvel Cinematic Universe films. Even though I still believe Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and Captain America: Winter Soldier and Infinity War is probably the more darker Marvel Cinematic Universe films. But once again, the whole playing it too safe and interjecting humor into intense situations typically tends to water down the overall seriousness of Captain America: Civil War. But it's still one of those type of films that is necessary to watch in order to fully understand the story that's being progressed, as it is a precursor, much like the Avengers, Age of Ultron, and Civil War. Those are films that are precursors to Infinity War and Endgame. But the performances in the film are great. Robert Downey Jr. is always amazing as Tony Stark. Chris Evans is the ideal and perfect Captain America, Steve Rogers. Tom Holland does an amazing job as Peter Parker Spider-Man in his first outing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Seeing the Spider-Man in full live action presentation, interacting with Marvel characters that we have only dreamed of, and really that we've only dreamed of by reading comic books, or always having this particular image in our head that we wanted to see him interact with other Marvel characters. When we watch Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire or Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, it was just amazing seeing him on the big screen again. Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa / Black Panther, amazing seeing the vibranium suit in action and watching him engage in combat with Bucky and Captain America was just flat out, full on amazing. Loved it. Scarlett Johansson, always beautiful and seductive as the Black Widow. Natasha Romanoff. Paul Bettany does a great job as Vision. Then you have Elizabeth Olsen, who does a wonderful job as Wanda Maximoff / Scarlet Witch. It is a great film, and the Russo brothers did an amazing job with the characters that were available to them. And the airport battle sequence is still one of the greatest action sequences of all time. And of course, the final battle sequence with Bucky, Captain America versus Iron Man / Tony Stark, full on, just absolutely. To me, that's one of my favorite battle sequences of all time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe franchise. It's very gritty and brutal, and even though, once again, they still played it too safe, I did appreciate the fact they managed to keep that same intensity and have you wondering exactly what is going to happen and who's going to come out of this completely broken. But again, it's not the perfect film. If I may say so myself, it's definitely something that I felt that could have been perfect if they just went the extra step in terms of making sure that the message that was displayed within the context of this film was going to be readily acceptable, and it just didn't do that for me as far as having the proper emotional weight that is necessary when it comes to a storyline like Civil War. But either way, I still did enjoy it. I mean, it's a great, fun film that is a pure comic book coming to life right before your very eyes. I hope everyone enjoyed my review of Captain America: Civil War. I also want to add that the music during the final battle between Captain America, Bucky, and Iron Man, that is what needed. That type of music is necessary in order for you to really get the proper scale of the emotional weight, and just hearing the orchestral effect gave it a much more epic feel. Needless to say, as I mentioned, it's still a great film. I did find it fun and entertaining to this very day. It just could have been better if they just didn't play it so safe at times. So when it comes to my final score of Captain America: Civil War, I would give it a 4 out of 5. As I mentioned, it's just because it could have been perfect, and the fact that it wasn't perfect is what's heartbreaking for me. But again, it's just my opinion. I'm not trying to sway anybody in terms of accepting my opinion as if it's the gospel. That's just my particular opinion on the film. And and again, it doesn't make it a horrible film under any circumstances. It's just I just felt that it would have been much more acceptable for me as a viewer if they just went into a different direction. But other than that, Captain America: Civil War, a 4 out of 5. That's my review of the film. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And if you happen to watch the film and have a different opinion, or if you agree with me, feel free to leave a comment on my YouTube and leave a like if you want to, or provide a like and a comment on my Facebook page if you so desire. Hope everybody continues to remain safe, and you'll be hearing from me again. Take care and peace out.